Hi, and welcome to Razz Reviews. Today, I'm going to be reviewing The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is a Disney Plus original Star Wars series that follows the story of a, wait for it, Mandalorian, a lone bounty hunter who comes across a Force-sensitive baby, that's Baby Yoda if you've been living under a rock, and they form the cutest bond in the universe, and together they go on adventures across the galaxy. This show is brought to us by two people. Jon Favreau, some unknown guy who did a little small thing called Iron Man that only launched the entirety of the MCU and made billions and billions of dollars, and Dave Filoni, who's only done two small Star Wars shows, The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, where he sort of redeemed the character of Anakin Skywalker and introduced us to lore and brought back amazing Star Wars lore from the discarded legends. So basically these two guys use fusion,
Jon,
to combine their epic powers to create a TV show that's going to save Star Wars from itself. Look, I'm not saying that The Mandalorian is the greatest show ever made. It isn't. It's not a perfect show, but it's amazing for Star Wars fans. If you're not a Star Wars fan, you will like it, but you won't understand what the hype is all about. But if you are a Star Wars fan and you don't like The Mandalorian, there is something wrong with you. Get help. So in this non-spoiler review, I'm gonna kind of try to break down what makes this show work. It all comes down to three things: simplicity, lore, and style. These are the three things that for me define The Mandalorian and make it work really well. The show is very simple. The plot is not complicated at all. It's basically a series of mini adventures that these two characters go on different planets in the Star Wars universe. So it's pretty much an MMORPG. They discover a new map, they find a quest giver, they want something from him, he asks them for a mission, they go do the mission, they come back, they submit, they get their reward, and it takes them to a new map. Rinse and repeat, The Mandalorian. So story-wise, there isn't really a lot going on, and some people might find that as a turn-off. But this simplicity allows for us to connect emotionally with the two characters, so it's really about their emotional bond and connection, and it's also about Mando, who's a sort of an extremely religious Mandalorian, and we also see him shed his metaphorical armor through his connection with this little kid, which also forces him into desperate situations where he has to let go of some of the beliefs that he hangs on to so much. So there isn't a million things going on with a million threads and cutting back and forth between different planets and different characters and past history and future and what is this gonna mean? None of that stuff. You don't have to sit there and wonder how does this connect to the timeline? It doesn't matter. Also, this simplicity allows for us to discover the lore of Star Wars. I've always felt that Star Wars really is a medium for TV series, not for movies. There's so much, it's such a huge world. We got the Skywalker saga in the trilogy, we're done. Even in the prequels, we still went into the Skywalker saga, and then in the new trilogy, like, we're done with that storyline. What's cool is that the world in which the storyline takes place is so big that people for 40 years have been coming up with fan fiction and comic book and books and novels because this world is so intriguing, and its dynamics and its politics is very interesting. So being able to delve into that, you can't do that in a movie. There isn't time. When you want to watch a 6-hour movie, no. But being able to do a TV series with a very simple plot allows for this space, and this is what The Mandalorian does so well. So for Star Wars fans, we get to just immerse ourselves in this universe and in the different elements of it outside of the main action that we have to focus on so much. And after that, we move into style. This show really shows you the power of cool. If something is cool enough, you're not going to care about anything else other than the fact that this was really cool to see. And The Mandalorian really takes that to a whole new level. First of all, it borrows a lot from Westerns and from Japanese samurai films and Akira Kurosawa. And that's because that's what the original trilogy was inspired by. The original Star Wars was based on The Hidden Fortress by Akira Kurosawa, and also borrowed a lot from like Seven Samurai and John Wayne films. Like, it's a Western in space with lasers. Somewhere along the way, that style was kind of lost in the prequels and in the new trilogy. The Mandalorian takes that and runs with it. A lot of these episodes are literal remakes of these movies. Like, one of them is basically Seven Samurai, and honestly, Din Djarin is basically Yojimbo. But it means that the show takes time to give us that style and that mood and that atmosphere, which is very compelling, which is why these films have stood the test of time. And The Mandalorian pays homage to that and brings it back into modern day in such a beautiful way. So it makes it such a beautiful thing to watch. After every episode, I sit down and I watch the credits for two things: the beautiful concept art that just shows you this magnificent style, and also the music. We can't not talk about the music of The Mandalorian. The score developed by Ludwig Göransson is unbelievable. It's not the Williams score, it's not the new score, it's something special and unique, and it's part of the identity of the show. Whenever you hear that music, it feels like The Mandalorian, and that's amazing. It's already iconic, and that's how a score stands the test of time and becomes something more than just an accompaniment to a show or a movie. It sounds tribal because the Mandalorians are tribal. It also has hints of wind instruments that's kind of like westerns, and it also has this drum beat and these percussions that sound like Kurosawa and samurai. This mix is wonderful. And of course, we gotta talk about the main character, Din Djarin, or the Mandalorian, played by Pedro Pascal. This is a character that for the majority of the show, we don't see his face. He's behind a mask. And yet somehow, we connect to this character and we feel his emotional beats every time. This is extremely difficult to achieve, but that's because the pacing of the show is slow and because these moments are brought about very nicely. Also, when we don't see the character's face behind the mask, we kind of imagine what their expressions are, and we sort of connect indirectly by empathizing because we're trying to predict what they're feeling. And it's something that works on a subtextual level that works very well, which makes the character of Din Djarin something that everybody's connecting with and everybody's rooting for. And somehow, stylistically, the show is not repetitive. Every episode feels fresh. And that's because Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have opened up the space for a lot of directors to come in and try out certain episodes. And you get different interpretations and different visions from different directors every season. You have Peyton Reed directing some episodes from Ant-Man. Taika Waititi directs some episodes. You have Carl Weathers directing an episode of Star Wars. What? That's awesome. Now look, this show is not for everyone. It definitely isn't perfect. It has some issues. One of the major issues is the pacing, especially because not all the episodes are the same duration. Some episodes feel a little long, but most times some episodes feel short or incomplete. And also some episodes feel like filler, like where is this going? Why did I have to see this? To me, it works because I don't care about the overall picture. I don't care about a big narrative. We have so many big narratives in the Star Wars universe already. I really enjoy the mini arcs, these mini stories that we see that introduce us to certain characters that live on a certain planet with their own set of circumstances, and it's really interesting to see that. And also for me, I'm very interested in seeing what happens after the fall of the Empire, after Return of the Jedi. What does the universe look like, especially in the Outer Rim that cannot be controlled? I didn't need every single thing that happens in every episode to matter. I liked when it didn't, and I also liked when it did. But sometimes, yes, it does feel like it drags. Yes, sometimes it feels like, okay, I would have rather move the plot along or move the story along. Okay, sure. In season 1, it is very guilty of doing a lot of filler, but actually in season 2, the show really moves forward with the storyline and actually connects to the larger world of Star Wars, and not just the original. It connects to the original Star Wars, it connects to the prequels, it connects to the new episodes, and it even connects to the Clone Wars and to Star Wars Rebels. Like, what more do you need? This show holds a beautiful thread between all these different worlds and gives us this fantastic conduit to Star Wars lore. I love it. Can an argument be made that this show is a little too fan servicey, especially in season 2? I've heard these arguments. I get it. I don't mind it because, again, the show already established itself before it started heading into that fan service territory. It's not focusing on the fan service. The fan service melds into the story perfectly, again, because of the way that the show is formulated. These mini adventures in mini places allows for them to bring in a lot of people and characters and worlds and elements from all of the Star Wars universe, even if it's just for an episode or for one scene. It's the nature of the show that allows for that kind of fan service, which I think is brilliant. Last but not least, I also want to talk about how this show has affected how movies and shows are gonna be made from now on. This show is not shot on location for the most part, and it's not shot on green screen. It actually utilizes LED screens and utilizes the Unreal Engine from gaming. So it creates this world where the show is shot in. So basically the characters are performing in front of LED screens, and it creates some beautiful imagery for very low cost. This is actually a lot cheaper than going to locations, and it looks more authentic than it would in green screen, where a lot of times it looks kind of fake and dark. So it actually is beautiful, and it's gonna make a huge difference in the future of cinema and filmmaking. So that's also another thing that the show brings to the world. So really, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have to up their insurance to help them with the back injuries that are sustained from carrying the entire Star Wars world on their shoulder and lifting it so up high with just one show. My God. I love The Mandalorian. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're definitely gonna love it. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, it's normal apparently to hate Star Wars. Like, the people who hate Star Wars the most are Star Wars fans. Even I'm guilty of this. So I guess it's fine. But for the most part, for me, this show really tickles my Star Wars fancy. I couldn't ask for anything more. I love it. I want more seasons from it. I am so happy to see that it's successful, and I can't wait to see more of it. It's an absolutely beautiful, well-made, well-shot, well-written, beautifully acted and executed series. And the best thing we've seen in the Star Wars world since, for me, the original trilogy, and therefore I'm going to give The Mandalorian a 9 out of 10. So, have you seen The Mandalorian? Are you looking forward to the new seasons? Let me know in the comment section what you think, and as always, like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to ask me what you'd like me to review for you next. See ya!